Here, I'm going to start recording. Welcome to week 5.
I say the recording light come on.
Yeah. Let's see why my. All right.
Okay, now I see the screen.
I think it's just my camera. I'll have to look into that. All right, cool. So here we're getting a little bit closer to the end. I think this assignment's a little more fun than the last. Actually, the last section of assignment 1 I think is a little more fun. The first part not so much. When you go into the legal stuff, at least from my opinion, not as fun to get into as some of the stuff like the training and development. All right, so for this first part, and I saw you maybe went with the route of just going with the assignment and not going off over your own business, which is totally fine. This probably gives you a good context in terms of what it would look like as you grow substantially, right? Because that's going to be a little different than it is when you're first starting out. Like the startup phase is definitely different than the growth phase. All right, so this one's taking this first section's kind of getting your opinion on taking the e-learning approach. So take a look at this one real quick if you haven't already, and see if you have any questions on it.
No. Looks pretty basic like the last one was. But yeah, just more or 50 words more.
yeah, exactly. So for everyone out there, just make sure you at least hit the 300 word mark. You can do that, as you can see right down here. You can see the word count on your browser, or you might just have to go in the toolbar and look for that.
Well, there's a trick on that, because the word count down there is actually showing for all the pages.
Oh yeah.
So you got to highlight just what you typed in to know what your word count is, or first type it over in Grammarly, or if you got Microsoft Word on your computer, do it that way, and then transfer it over to where you got exactly that amount of words.
Yeah, you're right. So you can have a separate doc open and do that. Or like you said, you can see I have needs assessment highlighted, and that shows that it's just 2 words. So you can just highlight the section you want to see. So let's say we highlight all that. You can see just a couple of sentences is already a third of what you're going to need. So just make sure you hit that mark so you don't lose any points in that regard. So I'm not trying to ding you guys too much on your grammar unless it's pretty blatant. But so I'm looking for some good content as I go through this. So looking at these questions, it's asking you what types of needs assessments would you recommend be used to determine training needs. So you could do, and this kind of relates to some of the hiring things, right? You could do behavioral assessments, or you could actually just do a survey of different things, questionnaire, send it out to employees, see what they would like to be trained on. Or another way is you could actually have their managers observe what's going on and see what the greatest need are the things that people don't understand. I think it was you, William, that talked about at Walmart where the cashier just had to learn how to use the cash box on her own. So that would be an excellent example of, hey, let's create some training around that. So they don't have to.
Yeah, that way the employees get a little more training in depth on what they're actually supposed to be doing.
Yeah. So,
instead of having to try to learn it all on themselves on the fly.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and so I think there's some benefit to that, but like some guided learning, and that's kind of how you guys' courses are set up, right? You have the ability to go in and resubmit assignments, which I think is really cool because you can learn from your mistakes and then
Well, there's some of the classes that allow us to, that we've had in the past that allow us to resubmit as much as we want, but then there's been some that only allow you to resubmit twice and that's it.
Really? That's interesting. So yeah, for our class, I'm totally fine with you resubmitting as much as you want because, I like the perspective of, mastering the content, instead of just like a one and done thing. So yeah, you guys can submit as many times as you want. I guess I should say that as many times as you want up to the Thursday of the last week, because that's when I got to make a hard deadline for everything. All right, so so whatever you guys, so going along back to that needs assessment, just make sure whatever ones you choose, pick different ones for the different positions, or if you want to talk about why you would use the same ones for all of them. But then this kind of go into some depth with your answer there. All right, and then next it says, what type of topics what are some traditional topics you're probably used to, like the harassment, training, and in this case, last week you guys in your last assignment talked about OSHA, so that's a different one. That's in this case probably really pertinent training that needs to be included for a grocery store. So any other traditional trainings that you can think of?
I know most jobs weigh heavily by OSHA because you do something wrong, OSHA has to come out and investigate it and can shut the project down for quite a while they're investigating.
Yeah, so that's like the OSHA and the non-discriminating, all that stuff. Kind of back into that legal stuff from assignment 1 is some of the traditional training. Like, yeah, we want to make that we do this training so our lawyers are happy. But yeah, so this is a little time to have a little fun with it. Like, what other training, like you can think back to when you were in that call center, if there was any other training that you would have liked to receive, like maybe leadership training or anything. That's where you can have fun with it on this part.
Yeah, because I know when I was working in the call center, we were a representative, and then what was above us was the resolutions desk, which was just before before our team boss. You would have to go there and work so long, and then you could apply to become an actual leader of the team and lead a team, and then move up higher from there.
Cool. So did they provide you training in that regard, like training above what your job was?
Well, you actually had to apply to become a resolutions person first, and then if you got accepted, they would go in. I didn't know how they actually did the training part of it because I never got accepted to do it.
Gotcha. So just kind of thinking like how that could help any company if they opened up that training for advancement. So let's say we're looking at from this perspective on this assignment, from a cashier to a store manager, like if they gave them some of that training up front, like allowed like in an e-learning format so that they could be ahead of the curve. So just think how, and I think that you could help from a hiring perspective, kind of weed out the people that didn't put in the time to do that extra training,
And save the money, or save the company money in the long run.
Oh, for sure. Cool. So let's, I think we're good there. You have any more questions on this section 1?
No. I'm good.
All right, let's go to employee development. So this kind of goes hand in hand with the training, right? So let's say and what we just talked about really is a development part, like helping the employees progress, but this kind of gets into the perspective of, okay, they're within a certain job role and we're helping them continue to grow. So It says, what's the different approaches versus management versus an entry level. So here you can talk about, if there should be differences or if there should not, just like we kind of said, like maybe open it up for other people. And then you get to pick two of these ones. If you want to make a mix and do all four of them, but not go into as much depth, I'm okay with that as well. But just kind of go into some sort of explanation beyond just, oh, formal education would be good. Say, okay, formal education would be good because, blank, blank, blank. So these ones a little shorter though, only 100 words. So you have to be a little more concise to get good content into it. So any questions on this one?
Nope.
Yeah, this is pretty straightforward. All right, and then this one's about having a mentoring program. Have you ever had one at your job?
The mentoring?
So this is formal, like from what you described in the past, it sounded like it was somewhat formal, somewhat informal, right? You got to go sit with the cohort.
Yeah, good. Right? That was like at the call center when I worked for a call center. We were in class, but once we got farther along in the class, we actually got to go to another part of the training where we were going to be getting ready to go to sit there and start learning the systems with some of the representatives there before they actually hit the main floor. And then we've also sat with the people up on the main floor to help us get an actual look into what the systems that we were using.
So with that, did those relationships continue on? Was there any formal setup to that where, okay, the person that you sat with was basically your mentor for the remainder of the time, or?
No, we'd sit with them for like a couple hours a day. And then, like, when I got moved out of the classroom to the actual first set of computers to start answering calls, I had a few mentors that I sat with that were still down there in their last week of class before they actually got moved up and out of there to their main teams that I could still ask questions to there, besides the teacher and the teacher's assistant that was there also trying to help us with them.
Cool.
With any of the questions we had.
So this is a little step further, having that formal mentor relationship. I know when I was in school, we had mentors assigned to us, and we would meet with them every quarter, and we can talk about different things. So you can kind of delve into this. This is more like this can get into like the Mr. Miyagi and Danielson relationship. I don't know. Are you familiar with Karate Kid?
Yep, I watched it too many times.
So this is something you can get in fun and have fun. Talk about the benefit of both. There's my one of my former teachers that gave me an interesting article about the benefit of matching someone that's at the end of their career versus someone that's at the beginning of their career, and how that relationship really helped out. So you got this really bright young person with this really knowledgeable person with a lot of wisdom about our knowledge about the job itself. So this is another one to have fun with it. Again, you have to be short and concise. So only 100 words, not too many words to go with. So any questions on that?
No.
All right. So section 2. So this is not as long as the last assignment, but this one we're going to jump in. This is 250 word mark again, and it's going to talk about managing performance with behavioral approach, which is kind of interesting. And then you go into what you would recommend. kind of interesting. And if you want to put a little color on this, you can talk about what would be some key metrics that you would measure performance on. So let's take like the stock clerk. Would you measure their performance based on how many shelves they stocked, or how nice they looked, or what kind of think about what would be the best way to measure that person's success and probably reward them, right? Because let's think about it this way. If I just base, so let's say, William, you're a stock clerk, and all I did was base your performance and your bonus off of how many shelves you stocked, do you think you would care how they looked?
You wouldn't really care because you'd be more interested in getting the shelves stocked than actually making them look nice and neat for the customer.
Yeah, right. You'd be just like, man, I need to put up all this product. I'm gonna go through it as fast as I can, and if it doesn't look great, that's not my really main focus, because I'm being incentivized by how fast I do it. So I'm fascinated with the different structures. For like one of the schools I taught at, we had like basically a company bonus, and there was different components that were all part of that. Like student success rate and how many students were brought into the school. And so one thing I thought was a disconnect was admissions ended up in a sense being more like a sales team, right? And I remember having students. I had one student come in, so it was for medical assisting, and in that regard. And she told me she wanted to be like a prison guard. I was like, okay, so why are you in school to be a medical assistant if that's what you're wanting to do? So there's that kind of disconnect of,
Well, she could have been wanting to work in the infirmary as a prison guard, because I know some of the prisons I've heard has infirmaries, which they consider the infirmary as their medical ward area.
Yeah, excellent point. But you wanna make sure it's like that it all aligns, right? So like this is a stepping stone, a direct stepping stone, and what it ended up being for that student is it wasn't. It wasn't a direct stepping stone to where she wanted to be. It was kind of over in left field. But so what I was getting at was you want to align, not just give metrics that seem important for one job, but you want to make sure that they all align, right? So like for that given school, you don't want to necessarily admit anybody, right? You want to admit people that want to succeed in the medical field. So this something to think about from this perspective when you're doing this assignment is like, hey, what are the incentives, and how can what's the performance that I want to actually measure and incentivize, and how does that align with everything else that's going on? Because you can definitely get skewed for sure.
Yep.
Cool. That was really it for assignment 2, guys. For all those that I haven't, I still have some that I need to finish grading for assignment 1. I'll get those done today, so you'll have that feedback. And again, if you have any questions, just let me know. William, do you have any questions on anything on assignment 2?
No, not
All
since
right,
it's like assignment 1, self-explanatory kind of.
So looking forward, next week we're going to have assignment 3, and then and then after that, bring it all together for your presentations. Remember, the last week you can do that in person, or if you guys decide to make a video, that's up to you. And then that pushes us into the last week of the class, which is week 8, which there's not any new content in week 8. It's just an opportunity and a time for you guys to catch up on anything that you haven't done already in the course, button up everything, and then once you're done, you can move on to your next courses.
if we've got them by then.
Yeah. Hopefully you will. So, all righty. Well, thank you for joining me today, William. If you don't have anything else, we'll say adieu and see you next week.
No, I was just looking through my assignments for your class and trying to figure out if I've still got any of the chapters to do.
Yeah, so everything's graded for the chapters. Everything's graded up until this week. So I didn't put in this. There was some grades to put in for this week. I didn't want to put them in until they were good grades for everyone. I didn't want to discourage anyone based on the point totals that were out there. So yeah, along those lines, if anyone has any questions on their grades, always feel free to text me, shoot me an email, and I'll get back to you.
Or even post it in Yellow Dig where we can all know.
Exactly. Yes. So and that's a good plug, William. I shot out everybody what you guys need to do for the rest of the course in Yellow Dig. So make sure you jump in there and do what you need to do to participate and get the most out of that. So thanks again, William. And then we'll stop this recording and see you guys next week.
Yep, because I'm going to look into my chapters and see